What advice would you give it to the individual investors, who want to participate in a manufacturing fund, and what time frame that you think that they should look at when they invest in this kind of funds?
So manufacturing, see, what the good part about manufacturing is it is a kind of a journey that we are setting out on. If you look back in independent India's history, I would probably say there have been a few revolutions along the way. One was the one orchestrated by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan during the Green Revolution days, where from a food shortage, food deficit, we went to food surplus. We raised cereal production fourfold per capita over that period. So it took about 20-25 years from the famines of the 50s and 60s to come to that kind of a situation. The second was this whole concept of this white revolution orchestrated by Dr. Verghese Kurian and Amul and all that, which brought in the fact that from a milk deficit we turned milk surplus. We're the largest producer of milk, largest exporters of milk and all that. And also for a farmer, the dairy component of income in his total income went up from 5% to 25%. So that was probably the second revolution we saw. I think the third was where we were uniquely positioned to capture was the services part of it, and we are all in our lifetimes we've all seen it, which is because of large English speaking technically talented people and all, and we could benefit from the tailwinds of Y2K, the computerization as a concept as it took off in the 90s. We benefited hugely from it, and our services industry really prospered. I think now we are on the cusp of this effort to bring in manufacturing renaissance in India. So whether you want to play it through the fact that we want to do more in India, we want to reduce our import dependence, we want to be more self-reliant. Plus, there are a lot of global aspects also which are kicking in, which is like issues like climate change is forcing energy efficiency at an unprecedented pace. When you go to buy a vehicle, you are thinking of how much miles of petrol will I be consuming and all that. Same way, when you buy even a household device like a refrigerator or an air conditioner, you think about the energy efficiency standards, ratings, all these kind of things. So there is a sharp focus there, and we are just talking consumer products. It's likewise in industry, because if a cement plant was consuming say 80 units of power to make 1 ton of cement, they are working on ways to bring it down to 75 units or 70 units and so on. Likewise for steel, all the energy efficiency industry. So I think manufacturing as a theme is a multi-decade theme. So it is something that we want to take up materially. If I look at the government's own targets here, they are saying that by 2047, that is 100 years of our independence, they want to take up manufacturing from 17% that it is at currently to about 25%. I'm saying let us even tone down these government numbers. Supposing we assume that we are on a steady state basis able to grow just at 6% for this period, and if we are able to push it up by 500 basis points, 17 to 22%, and mind you that in the turn of the century our manufacturing proportion was actually somewhere around the 28-29% mark. So it's not an unachievable number. So I'm saying 500 basis points improvement, GDP growing 6%. Of that expanded GDP in 2047, if I extrapolate 22% of it, it means that the manufacturing market size will be 5 times of what it is. So that is the kind of numbers that we are talking about. Plus the fact that if you take a comparison with China, China's exports manufactured goods of 3.5 trillion annually. Our GDP is 3.5 trillion. That's the kind of landscape we have. So to my mind, it's a multi-year theme. And it is something that we should definitely look at. So if you look at even for investors, you have a lot of variety of products across the flexi cap space, large cap space, etc., etc. All of these will typically reflect the GDP of the country. So services sector will be roughly about 50% of that, because rough cut 30-32% will be banks, and 14-15% will be tech. Add a few other services like hotels, hospitals and all that, and you will reach that 50% mark. All I'm saying is that here you have a ability to focus on something which is a thrust area of the government, the balance 50%, which is what they want to take up now. And it will allow you to participate in that acceleration which the government is stepping on the accelerator. So that is where I think it makes a great story from here for the next decade and a half kind of a thing.
Okay. So which sector are you looking at when you're looking at investing in this fund?
So if I look at the fund itself, it will be tracking the NSE 500, the NSE Manufacturing Total Return Index. So it's a flexi cap benchmark as well. But broadly, I would say if I look at the benchmark itself, it's got rough cut weights. I'm telling you is about auto and ancillaries about 30%. 20% is industrials, capital goods and all that, and roughly 15% is pharmaceuticals and 10 odd percent each in say sectors like oil, gas, petrochemicals, metals, etc. So this will account for a large part of the index. Then you have few smaller, it's got a reasonably long tail as well. But if I look at just the large sectors, these are the main focus area of where the fund will focus on. So auto is clearly one, industrials is being another, pharmaceuticals being the third, and oil, gas, metals. These will be the typical focus areas of this sector.